Welcome back to the 80-Hour Developer. At the end of the last video, we had set up the ability for users to only see their own tickets. In other words, we'd set up some security to make sure that I can't see anybody else's tickets and they can't see mine. But we hadn't set up the ability to say what a ticket meant as far as whether it's to do, in progress, or done, and the display was just dumping them out on the page. It wasn't looking very good. So let's address both of those issues today. We're going to start with TI7. So we're going to set up the ability to give tickets statuses. So the very first thing we need to do, I think, is to set up a database table that's going to list out all the possible statuses that we can have. So I'm going to make migration schema. And I think that's all that we need to do, is to have the statuses with a name. Now we know that we're going to start with to do, in progress, and done. So I think what I want to do in our migration is to allow for that. So what we're going to do is, after the ticket statuses have been created, we're going to create okay, and we'll pull the ticket status in, and that means that we need to create our model factory. And we'll just do this. There we go. Import the class. Okay, so now when we run this migration, we will get 3 ticket statuses. Now that means that we can say for every ticket that it can have a ticket status. And in the future, we might want to pull this out to its own pivot table so that we could track when each ticket moved from one status to another and back. But for now, I think it's okay just to say that the ticket itself is going to have a column that says what status it's in. Okay, so we've made some changes. Let's run a migrate fresh, and it doesn't like something here. Oh, it says that the table does not exist. Interesting. Ticket statuses table. What is this error? Base table or view not found. Oh, I said add ticket statuses table, not create. So we're going to delete this migration file. Sometimes it's a little tricky remembering what wording the migration likes. So now when I come here, our ticket statuses, now this migration has told it to actually create that table. Perfect. And so now when I import this, and our tests run, and look, something isn't happy. So it's a good thing we're running these as often as we are. So what doesn't it like? When it's trying to create a ticket, the ticket factory doesn't know what to do with ticket status ID, and in fact there is no default given for it. So there's 2 ways that we could fix this. One would be to say that in our tickets table, we're going to set a default of 1. And this actually is a solution that I like, because we know that every ticket, when it gets created, should go into the to-do column. And we know that to-do is going to have an ID of 1 because our ticket statuses migration creates it first. So I think this is the best way to do it. So we're going to run this. We're going to run an AF and a PHP unit, and everything passes. Okay, so now let's go into our tickets test. And we should also be able to update this test that the ticket status ID is 1. And that test still passes, so we now have it enshrined in our test that when a user creates a ticket from the command line, that new ticket has an ID, or a ticket status ID of 1, which we know means to do. Okay, so we're in a pretty good position here. The next thing that we want to do is to be able to show the tickets in different columns in our home page. So if you'll recall, when we go to our tickets test and we log in, this is all that happens. If I create a ticket here, when I come back to the home page, whoops, it just shows me my ticket. If I create another ticket, it's just going to keep dumping them out here. So there's nothing here that allows me to say what status the ticket is or really anything other than it's just listing these out. So let's do a few things. First, let us create 3 columns on this home page, 1 for each of our ticket statuses. Okay, so we're going to come into our here, and let's use our bootstrap and say we're going to create a row. We're going to create 3 columns where we're going to display our tickets. And now we can say to do, in progress, and done. So now we can get rid of this. And if I come up here and we refresh this, okay, so now this is just listing out all of our tickets under to do. So not great, but it's a start. We're getting there. So maybe now what I want to do is to be able to say for each ticket, I want to be able to select another status for it, select whatever status it doesn't have. So I think I'd like to do something like this. I think I'd like to have a little link under each ticket that would say in progress, or move to in progress, move to done. So maybe they're just buttons, small little buttons that say move to in progress, move to done. So what would that look like? Well, we might do something like this. I'm just going to put nothing in our link for now. We're just going to hard code all this for now. Okay. Now these are each, yes, and I definitely don't want to be using, in fact, I think we can get rid of this, this UL and LI. Okay. Maybe we'll do something like this. Okay, so not great by any means yet, but we've got a ticket, and then we can say move to in progress or move to done. And then in the if we've got one that's in progress, we want to be able to say move to do or move to done. And then in done, similarly, move to in progress or move to do. Okay, so let us think about how we want to work with this when we have multiple tickets. Well, I certainly think what we want to be able to do is to say show me all of the users to-do tickets. Then show me all the users in progress tickets and all the users done tickets. So maybe what we will do is on the user model, we will create a few functions here for to do, in progress, and done. This is actually probably a good time to talk about attributes. Get to do Okay, so what I'm saying here is that the to-do tickets is going to give me back our tickets where the ticket status is 1. I'm hard coding this in because we know that 1 is the status for to-do. We might also, though, do something like this. Okay, and then we can say ticket status ID. Okay. Now, what this format here does, the get something something attribute allows us to say on the user model something like this: user to do tickets, and then have that show up. So what we could do in here is to say user to do tickets. Okay, now if we come to our home page and refresh this, what we should see is the to-do tickets, but it does not seem to like that for whatever reason. We know that the user has, that's me, here's the tickets, and we know that we have a ticket with a ticket status ID of 1. Oh, silly me. Okay. There we go. We have our new ticket, move to in progress, move to done. Okay. So now we could do the same thing for each of our in progress and done tickets. And we will say in progress tickets and done tickets. We'll say move to okay. So this, I think, is working out all right. If I were to change the status of this from 1 to 2, we come in here. And of course, it doesn't like that because we haven't set up what an in-progress ticket is or a done ticket is. So let's come back to our user. Oopsie. Something doesn't, oh, my screen recording software does not like my go back in time piece. Well, that's a shame. So one thing to notice here is that in the attribute setup, we're using what's called camel case. And so we're saying get and then capital T, capital D, capital T. When we're actually calling it, we call it with snake case using these underscores, and we leave off the get and the attribute. Okay? And so this is how we specify what that's going to look like. And get Okay, so now if I come back here, we have it in the middle. And of course, if I were to say that the status was 3, we see it in done. Okay, so let's start writing some tests. And one of the things that we want to think about is how can we test this? How can we test that tickets show up where we expect them to? One way that we might do this is to have an ID attached to each of these rows, I guess, for lack of a better term. And here's what I mean by that. Here's a quick and easy way that we could set up testing on this would be to say that the ID of our paragraph for each ticket is going to be to do ticket ID. And now here, it'll be in progress. And here it will be so what this will allow us to do is to say that if we believe that a ticket should be in the done column, then we expect to see the text done underscore and then whatever the ticket ID is. Or more explicitly, we could say we expect to see this whole string, p equals ID done underscore ticket. So let's write a quick test for that in our ticket test. And we're going to say, so our test here is that we expect that the in progress ticket should show up in our middle column. So let's create a ticket. Where the ticket status ID is 2. Okay, now let's log in so we're going to assign that ticket to our logged in user. Now we're going to visit home. And now what do we expect to see? What we expect to see is this string here. Okay, we expect to see in progress ticket ID. I certainly expect not to see done and to do. So let's run this test. And it fails. It says it doesn't see in progress underscore 6. So this becomes interesting. Why doesn't it see that? And this brings up the opportunity for me to put together one of my favorite little helper methods, which is, I call it the fail controller. Okay, so it hasn't found it yet, so let's actually just go up here to our controllers. And we will create a view for fail index. Okay, so now we can copy all of this HTML and so what our test is telling us is that it can't find any any tickets for the user that we're looking at. So let's come back to our tickets test. And let us make our tickets controller a little more explicit. What's our home controller? So before we do that, I'm curious to see what the, when we come here and take a look, we see, so the user is Dr. Salvador Cozy. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to come to our test, and we're going to comment this out for a moment so we can actually see what's happening in the database. So it's creating a lot of users, I see. Oh, and yes, that makes sense because we ran our test. I just want to run one test, so that was my mistake. I ran the full suite. Okay, so let's grab this. We'll put it into our fail method. So the user is Kayla Cummings. The ticket has a user ID of 2, a ticket status of 2. Okay. So for whatever reason, our view is not actually showing the auth user tickets. So one of the things that we can try is this. And now in our tickets controller, so our home controller, we can say that user equals user. Okay. Let's try this. This might still fail. In fact, it is still failing. So let's take a look at this from another tack. Let's see if within our test we can see all of the tickets. So let's do a die and dump. And remember, this is what we're doing in our home controller as well, or our home view, is we're using this auth user. So when I run this test now, okay, so it's showing me that I have tickets here for that auth user. But is it showing me that I have any in progress tickets? No. Now, what happens if I do a fresh? Okay. So what's happening here, I believe, is that there is some caching going on when we do the auth user or the user. So if we come in here instead and say this, and then back into our home view. Okay, now we run our test. There we go, and everything passes. Okay, so now we've got the ability to see our tickets, and we have the ability to see them in the correct columns. The last thing we need to do is be able to move them. So this is actually going to be a lot easier than we might expect. All we're going to do is to create, let's create a link, and right now we'll keep it as a just as a clickable get link. We don't even need to post anything. And we can say update ticket status, ticket ID, and we will tell it which status that we want to change. So let's say there are 2, and here we'll take this. Okay, so bear with me for one moment while I one, 3. And 1, 2. Okay, so if we take this route and we go to our web, and so we're going to create a method in our tickets controller called update status, and it's going to take 2 parameters. One is the ticket ID and one is the status ID. Okay, so let's do, what do we call this? Update ticket status. Okay, so now what we can do is say, now, as you can already probably guess, we're definitely going to want to add in a whole lot of testing and logic around this so that we can't just be updating anybody's ticket or any ticket to any ticket status ID. We're going to want to throw in checks to make sure that the status ID matches one of the ticket status IDs. We're going to want to throw in a check to make sure that the user who's trying to do this change owns or has access to that ticket ID. But for right now, I think this will work for us, assuming I've imported the Flash package, which I have not. So the Flash package is wonderful, and we're going to get it right now. Laracast Flash. Okay. And what ticket? Okay, so we were on TI7, and then we're just doing TI8 right now. So let's do a quick status update. And I'll make a new one here for... Okay, so this is done. I'm going to do a git add a for TI7. So this was a much bigger ticket than I typically like to do. I like to break them up into smaller pieces. But we've completed TI7, TI8, and TI16 here. Once this is in play, we will go to our home page and take a look and just make sure that everything is what we expect. And I think that, yes, this really should have everything in play. The only thing I need to do is add a Flash message to my container. Okay. So that's in, wonderful. So let's do, oh, that's my fail. Okay, so there's nothing in play here, so let's create a ticket. We'll come back to our home page. I really do need to fix the navigation there, but we'll do that shortly. So let's say here that I want to move this to in progress. Oh, tickets controller update status does not exist. That's update ticket status, but in my web page I put update status. Okay, so let's just do that. No. Oh no, so that was update ticket status. Oh, it's saying that the tickets controller. Okay. There. So if I move this to in progress, we see it tells me that the update's been successful, and we can now move it to done. Okay, now I just need to take that from here and put it into here. There we go. And if I want, I could have this moved above my menu, I believe, by doing this. Yes. So it just depends on wherever you want to put the message. I think I prefer it for now down in here. And so now we can be moving our tickets into whatever categories that they actually should be in, and away we go. So that takes care of it for this lesson. Hopefully seeing me struggle and not understand things gives a little bit of confidence that this is not a straight A to Z process where you always know exactly what you're going to do. And even after you've been doing this for a while, you're still going to run into little issues that you just have to work your way out of and test different things until you find what works. So we are well on our way to having this ticketing application done. Let's come in here and we will move over 7, 8. Okay. 13 is done. 14 is done. And 15 is done. Okay, so we might want to add some more testing. We don't have any tests in place right now on our user controller that these methods work. So in our next video, we will add some testing, and then we will talk about the last things to do in this project before we call it complete and move on to the final capstone project of this course. I hope this has been interesting, and I look forward to seeing you back next time.